So we want to be in a state of optimal health and well-being. And when that happens, we are able to respond in a non-stressful way, which leads to more cognitive response, not an emotional response. Have you ever asked yourself, why did I do that? What was I thinking when I said this or I did this? In this video, we are going to explore system 1, which is a system that is best described as an emotional response, and system 2, which is best described as a cognitive response, and why we do the things that we are baffled by later, why we did them. I was talking to a client who is a real estate investor, and he gets triggered when people start to question his intentions. He starts to respond in a way that he doesn't want to respond. And he asked me, how can he shift his response from more of a emotional response to more of a rational or cognitive response? How to change that knee-jerk response into a thoughtful response, how to change that system 1, that is a sum total of our experiences and collective experiences, that we respond in a knee-jerk way, to responding with system 2 that can take care of nuances and look at the current situation, not just the historical collective experience. So what we are doing is how to shift our response from an emotional response to more of a cognitive response. The number 1 is the basic idea of introducing delays. What we want to do is not make system 1 respond. System 1 typically responds in 5 to 10 milliseconds, and system 2 takes more than 100, 200, 300 milliseconds to respond. So we want to create some pause between our stimuli and our responses. And that response can be created by mindfulness. It can be created by some sort of a quiet time. It can be created by taking a break or whatever method you use, but introduce a delay, cause a pause. A second method to shift our response from system 1 to system 2 is to practice a lot, to create a habit. Here are some typical ways to create a habit. One way is when somebody responds in a way that we triggered by, record something, record those words in those tones and response to the recording. Or do a mirror exercise, being in front of the mirror and responding to a stream of consciousness. It's a basic idea of behaviorism. You have some cues or triggers and we can learn to respond in a different way. In the same way the dogs of Pavlov learned to salivate when the bell was rung. It's a way to change our response to blame. The blame leading to blame, we want to change that to blame leading to, for example, a smile, maybe a pause, or something along those lines. The third method I found very helpful is to focus on whatever we are working on at the time. Be engaged in it. Do not multitask. Limit distractions. Here are some ways to limit distractions. If you are talking to somebody and you have a bunch of browser windows open, close all the browser windows except for the ones that you need at the time. Or do a video call, not an audio call. When I'm doing a video call, I tend to be a lot more present and engaged because the person can see me. It's harder to get distracted. The fourth method I find very helpful is to reflect on one past incident or decision point where we acted in a way that was not productive, that was counterproductive, and really try to figure out what shift occurred inside of us that made us respond in that way. And we want to do this analysis in a non-judgmental way. This is how it happened, it's okay, but I want to figure out what were the shifts occurring inside of my body and emotions that made me respond in that way. One example that I recently encountered of this, a friend coach was talking about a conversation he had, and he said, geez, why did I say that? And he said this in a way to make that response sound ridiculous. But if we really ask that question in a curious way, geez, why did I say that? And go deeper into that question and non-judgmentally ask, why did we do that? Once we were able to figure it out, it turns out this friend did it because he had a particularly difficult call just before that call, and he was triggered by that call and was feeling very defensive, and that's why he did it. It is not ridiculous for him to behave like that. It was very natural after we realized what was going on with him. So the idea is reflect on the past decision or instance and really go deeper into why did we behave the way we behaved in a non-judgmental way. And the fifth and final thing I will say about shifting our response from system 1 to system 2 is to take your meds. And by meds, I don't mean medication. I mean, do your mindfulness, be aware of what's occurring inside of your body, do your exercise on a daily basis, engage your body on a daily basis, eat healthy, the diet part, and sleep well. When we are doing all of those things, we are well rested. We are not in a state of psychological stress that activates our stress response. When our stress response is activated, we tend to get distracted, we tend to get short-tempered, we tend to get more emotional. So we want to be in a state of optimal health and well-being, and when that happens, we are able to respond in a non-stressful way, which leads to more cognitive response, not an emotional response. So there you have it, the 5 ways of shifting our response from system 1 knee-jerk response to more cognitive, thoughtful system 2 response. Introduce delay, pause, practice a lot by creating situations where you get triggered and then respond to the trigger. Remain focused and engaged, don't be distracted. Reflect on one past decision, one past instance, and see what was going on inside of you. And finally, take care of your well-being so you are not in a state of stress, in your state of relaxation, which leads to more engagement of the cognitive brain. I would love to hear your thoughts and your challenges if you run into such challenges, and what kinds of strategies do you use to shift your response to a more thoughtful response. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you.